Welcome everyone to the Wano Report, episode 27.
No, 28, right?
Episode 28.
Okay.
I feel like, at some point people are just going to believe that we do this on purpose, but I think we actually, keep forgetting what episode we're on.
Yeah, it's like, it's a week since the last one. Yeah.
Well, thanks for correcting me. I literally would have said 27 now. So, welcome to Wano Report 28.
Wait, now that I'm thinking about it, are we ever going to do anything special for, like if there's, episode 50 or something like that? Or would we just... Because, episode 20, we didn't do anything. And episode 30, we're probably not doing anything. Episode 40,
episode 100.
Okay, so we wait till then?
No. I mean, I don't know. I guess we can do that, I don't know, for episode 30. I don't know.
We could copy what the Red Force did. And
do the reverie.
Do the reverie then.
Wano Report, the reverie.
Yeah.
Hi, Eric. Hi, Christian.
Oh, they'd be so bad. All right.
I like that idea. No, yeah. Let's see.
Copy them for episode 50. All right.
Some housekeeping. I guess today it's the two of us, no guests. We do enjoy having guests on, and people actually want to come on and ask to come on the podcast, which is, I feel, a great success for us. But at the same time, I think we also want to have these episodes where it's just the two of us hanging out and talking.
Yeah, everybody's quarantined right now, so
everyone's quarantined.
Yeah, we don't want any of them getting in on this podcast and affecting us. By the way, because you guys are all quarantined, I would highly recommend, you have nothing to do, why don't you try Audible? Audible is a great source of entertainment for all sorts of quarantined people. If you want, there is a link below, and to our wonderful sponsors, Audible.
I do hope the link still works, because last time I tried to click on it, it kind of the site was down, but still, try it out.
Try it out.
Sponsoring, okay, I have to share this. I mean, this today, we're still going to talk about One Piece, but it's going to be a bit more laid back, because Morj and I are, in a very good flow with laid back conversation right now. We've been talking, for almost an hour, I feel like, before we started this podcast. I got an email, I sometimes get these weird sponsoring requests, and, today I feel like the funniest ever, where it's I got a email from a John Manager.
Manager.
Yeah, John Manager, very professional name. But the best thing was John was JONH.
What? What?
So it was John Manager. And he was like, "Hi, wait, I'm gonna quickly pull this up because this was just too hilarious." And I was like, "So if I'm really sorry if this is a genuine sponsorship request and I'm just making fun of this for no reason. Then I'm really sorry."
Out there, John Manager is in tears.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh no, it's just," but it looks very, very fake. So that's just. So he's like, "Hi, my name is John He. I'm a representative of XXX, and I'm a public relations agent." And I was like, "Our company is ready to pay well for your work. If you're already cooperating with our company, write to us and we will send you further instructions."
I don't know, John.
Dear Mr. Manager, this sounds legit. We're definitely not looking to get your account info.
Dude, I don't know. Okay, you get these shitty sponsor requests, and that's funny, but I would love to get any sponsorship requests at all. In all my time as a YouTuber, nobody has ever tried to sponsor me. I would like to get, Raid Shadow Legends or whatever. I would happily, I would let them sponsor me. I don't mind. I know other YouTubers make fun of it, but if they reached out, I would hop on that.
So I would take it. You hear that, Raid Shadow Legends? It's your chance to get an exclusive first time on the channel of Mr. Morj. If no one contacts you, I'm just gonna run an ad for my channel on your channel.
Oh,
Hi, this is Mr. Morj. This video is sponsored by Ohara. He does. Oh my god.
Just go watch your videos. Oh man.
Other housekeeping elements. Today we don't have a nice custom-made thumbnail by Revujo, just because he is luckily I'm gonna say busy doing other work for other people who actually pay him adequately for his work. So nonetheless, I actually don't know if we'll get the thumbnails back. I hope so. But yeah, nonetheless, thanks Revujo for all the great thumbnails you've done so far. I think he just recently created a Patreon, so if you want to support him, you can check that out. I'll put the link in the description below as well. Otherwise, let's talk about.
We don't have questions this time either.
We don't. Yeah, we don't have questions because this was a very spontaneous.
This was
report.
Impromptu. Yeah. So I guess all the housekeeping was just generally bad stuff. So we basically telling them we don't have a guest, we don't have a good thumbnail, we don't have questions.
I feel
it's gonna be really good Wano Report.
Arguably, a couple of these things were also positive. I would say. Arguably,
some of them were. We don't need Revujo's thumbnail.
I'm so happy. I'm just really happy I can slap my old one back on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else you wanna?
We actually have 2 chapters, I guess, to talk about, but I'm gonna try and keep this one shorter generally. So both the chapters fit together pretty well, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like it's all just one continuous scene. So
yeah, maybe. Actually, we didn't. So I mean, obviously, okay. Maybe we put this in the preamble, and then, we'll just have One Piece in One Piece. No pun intended. Yeah, everyone out there, with all the current situation going on, stay safe. And since also Morj and I had some stuff to deal with, we didn't really manage to put out a podcast the last 2 weeks. So I actually haven't really talked to you about the 2 chapters. So I'd love to hear your take on both of them right now.
Okay. Right now. Let me think real quick. 974. Okay, so 974 was the Kanjuro reveal, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually talked a bunch about this on the stream that I did last week. And for everybody out there, I'm doing.
Now I have to think about that comment again.
What? Never mind. Yes, someone just posted a funny comment on that video. Anyway, so what was I saying?
Sorry. Your thoughts on the Kanjuro chapter.
The Kanjuro stuff. So Kanjuro, I like the reveal for certain reasons. One being how it happened. So it was right in the middle of the chapter. I'm kind of skimming over basically what I said before during my own stream. So I liked how it happened. It was very surprising to see it just pop up in the middle of a chapter. I always thought the trader's reveal would be a cliffhanger, something along those lines. But just literally scrolling down the page and then seeing, Kanjuro saying, like, I am exactly that or whatever. Panel looked great. Like, it really immediately... Kanjuro's such a cool character design because he can flip so Oda could so easily flip him between that really goofy looking cartoonish design. He had a very silly look up till now, or at least you would feel that way up till now. But then so quick, over the course of just that chapter, once you see him in the perspective of a villain, and Oda changes the shading around him and stuff, changes the effectiveness of his devil fruit, his personality, all that stuff, suddenly he seems like a really cool villain design. Like, if you were to have just dropped Kanjuro on us as a villain in the first place, he would have been one of the coolest looking villains that we've had in the series so far. So I liked the switch, the moment that it happened. I was shocked that we got it right then, and the way that it happened. I didn't expect to get that betrayal revealed that quickly because we had just kind of wrapped up the Odin flashback. What was the other thing? Oh, other really big thing was I saw in multiple sources. So I saw in the comments of some videos, and really Library of Ohara was the best at kind of Arthur really laid out in his chapter secrets all of the little hints that Oda had dropped throughout. And then I guess big props to Marco, the One Piece YouTuber Marco, who had put out a video a while back, supposedly about why Kanjuro was the traitor, and he had also outlined basically big props to Oda for all of the little things that he had done up till now that actually made it really clear that Kanjuro was the traitor, and he was thinking about it the entire time. Or I don't know if you taken a chance to look at that or anything like that. I'm just gonna list a few of the things right now.
Yeah, go for it. I think I've seen it, but still read it.
I'll just list a couple that really stuck out. The right hand, left hand thing. So Kanjuro obviously being dominantly, I forget. I think he's dominantly right hand, but always draws with his left.
Oh, because he ate the cabbage or something with his right hand, but then he draws with his left. Yeah.
And then small timing things supposedly. So X-Drake and Hawkins showing up at the bathhouse. Supposedly that only happened right after Kanjuro found out that they were at the bathhouse, and like similarly like Yasue's death leading to some I forget. Okay, I don't have the thing pulled up in front of me, but like a lot of the little timing things that were confusing, not confusing, but eyebrow raising of like, okay, how did the bad guys figure this out, etc. If you go back and look through, they all happened after Kanjuro got certain information, basically. So that all fit. Kanjuro was shown sending like messenger birds out as soon as they traveled to the future. Lots of little stuff. I really like that. And then lastly, I think like Oda just turned Kanjuro into like a really interesting character really quickly with that sort of characterization of he's a Kurozumi, persecuted all of his life, lived his life on the stage, and now he's looking to die, but he will happily, like, because he's so willing to die, he's ready to basically give his life entirely to a role, right? So I really liked all that, and the fact that it looks like Kanjuro's going to be a continuing villain moving forward. I like that we kind of got this little swap of, Kyoshiro is now a good guy, so we kind of take him off the bad guy roster, but then Kanjuro's a bad guy with a really terrifying ability, so you kind of add that. Like, in my mind, he's kind of now taking Kyoshiro's place as basically Orochi's right-hand man, like Orochi's number one soldier or something along those lines. So I like that, and I'm just really, like, Kanjuro just became the most interesting scabbard, if you still consider him that, to me. It kind of went from Ashura Doji, then to Kyoshiro as of, like, 973, and then now to Kanjuro as of 974. So those are all the reasons I liked it. The last thing I'll say, sorry, Ohara.
Dude. No.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say, and then you can go off, basically. I did not like Kanjuro as the answer to who the person was at the end of the day. Because I felt like he was kind of... And I hadn't thought too much about who the traitor was, because I wanted to be surprised. And I was surprised in the moment. I'm not going to be like, oh, I scrolled down, saw Kanjuro, I wasn't surprised right then. I was surprised more so how it, like, the moment that it happened, the suddenness of it. Like, I was surprised by it happening in the middle of a chapter right then. And I was surprised that, Kanjuro does look, like, if it had been Raizo doesn't look that, like, villainous. I don't think there's any way you can spin Raizo as villainous, but to me it was really cool to see, like, sudden drastic change in Kanjuro's character like that. So I like those aspects. He does look like a really cool villain, and he's got such a cool ability. I'm very excited about it being Kanjuro, okay? But I didn't like that it was Kanjuro as the answer to the thing, just because, to me, he was the most, like, it was kind of the easiest option in terms of, we knew the least about Kanjuro. Or not even knew the rest of the cast, we've kind of gotten to know them more. Pretty much all of the Scabbards, we've gotten to know them more. We get them a little better, whereas Kanjuro is kind of the simplest character that Oda could flip and be like, this guy's the Scabbard. He always felt more minor than the rest of them. So to me, like, a really exciting mystery conclusion would have been, it's taking a character that we thought we understood really well, and then taking their motivations a step further to understanding this is why this guy actually was against you guys the entire time. Versus with Kanjuro, it's kind of, and I said this in my stream, to me, like, I read a lot of mysteries, and I did growing up. I was a big Agatha Christie reader, so I've read a lot of those books and stuff like that. I still watch Hercule Poirot movies and stuff like that. So to me, it's all, like, I consider really good whodunits to be when you have a cast of characters where you understand a lot about each character's motivations, and then it's just putting in that final piece that kind of makes you realize, okay, based on everything we understood of this character so far, and adding in this final piece, we understand now why they would have done the thing that they did. Whereas with Kanjuro, he's like the least developed of the cast. So it would have kind of been like, oh, it was the butler, even though we didn't really know anything about the butler up till this point, basically. So I didn't like that part of it. I think it would have been an amazing twist, kind of like if Oda hadn't built up the who's the traitor thing as much, if he just dropped little hints, like Inuarashi saying on Zou, like, how did they find us? Stuff like that. Like, if Oda had done smaller hints and stuff, and then we get hit with, like, Kanjuro was a traitor all along, I would have loved it. To me, it's part of the fact that Oda did play up quite a bit, like, there's a traitor, who is it? And then ultimately it is one of the more, like, the less fleshed out Scabbards. I don't know. Like, I don't know who the more interesting answer would have been, and I wasn't trying to think about who the more interesting answer was. So ultimately, I'll say, as the chapter, I really like the chapter. As that being the answer to the long-running mystery of who the traitor was, I wasn't like super excited about it or super happy about it, but I still liked it as a chapter over the course of the story. Right. Long answer, but that's my thoughts on Conjuro.
No, that's good. I like that. That's very very complete. Quick question before I answer that. Did you see Knives Out, the movie?
Dude, I like Knives Out quite a bit, but Knives Out also... wait, I don't want to spoil it for people. Oh. Knives Out, I liked a lot.
Yeah,
and
spoiler.
Knives Out was...
You have a spoiler warning right now, so listen. So I don't know. Just listen. Just don't listen for the next 20 seconds.
20. Give me a 40
seconds.
40. Okay. Knives Out I liked a lot. I think Chris Evans being the dude, like being ultimately because it took a twist halfway through. It was like, okay, we're no longer a mystery movie. We're now this sort of a movie, and then it brought it back to being classic mystery by the end. The fact that it was Chris Evans in the end made it difficult because it's the name brand going into it. You know what I mean? It's because it's like Chris Evans, so it's like he's maybe the most likely to be that. So I was all, because it was Chris Evans. If it was a no-name actor, I would have bought his story halfway through. But because it was Chris Evans the entire time through, I was feeling like if they're gonna make someone the murderer, it's gonna be him. Close on that.
But I really like the concept. It was
it was a cool movie.
Very entertaining.
Yeah, spoilers are over, by the way, for Knives Out, unless Ohara's gonna say something.
No, it's fine.
I like Knives Out. Dude, they're doing a sequel supposedly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Daniel Craig is.
Yeah, he was dope with the American accent, with like the Southern accent.
He was great. It was a really fun detective movie.
Okay. Quick. Okay, so enough of that. I would just had to think about that because you were talking about mystery, and I just remember seeing that like in February or something. It was a really enjoyable movie. For me, Conjuro. I do get what you're saying and your arguments, and I guess I'm on board with you from the perspective that Conjuro from the Scabbards was probably, especially after we had all the time to speculate, the most likely candidate to be a traitor. What I think made it, like I thought the reveal itself was really nicely done, but what also made it work for me as Conjuro as a candidate was that Oda made it a point with the flashback 2 chapters earlier that I think everyone had the feeling, okay, all of the Scabbards were willing to die with Odin, and all of them were saved by Odin. There's no fucking way that any of them would be the traitor after all that. Like, either, if I'm a traitor, I either don't jump into the oil and I reveal myself there, or I change my mind because that person literally sacrificed their life for me. So I feel like with that scene where Odin is boiling alive and carrying all the Scabbards, I feel like for me and for pretty much everyone in the community, that was a sign of, hey, it's not one of the Scabbards, it's got to be someone else. And even if you've been speculating and it was Conjuro or one of the other Scabbards before, I feel like that chapter made it a point of saying that's not possible. And then bringing in that character background and this very unique way of putting a spy into the group of heroes, I thought it was so creatively done, and I appreciated the twist that Oda put in there. So I definitely, while I, in the end, had thought before that Conjuro might be one of the candidates, I definitely didn't think it to be any Scabbard once it was revealed that it was Conjuro. So I thought that was really, really nicely done. And I feel like this was one of the things maybe where the week-to-week reading experience with all the theories and reviews coming in between, like obviously not taking myself out of this, but obviously having weeks and weeks to discuss who the traitor is, and then discussing possibilities. Oh, it might be Conjuro, it might be Raizo, it might be a Mink. Like, once you've heard every theory about every character already, it kind of, you know what I mean? It kind of feels... You
are 100% right. And that's why I kind of wanted to stay away from it, by the way. I tried not to see theories of it, right? I tried to stay away from discussions of who the traitor was, personally. But you're right about the Odin scene, too. Oda did set it up really well, okay, it's definitely not a Scabbard, and then shocker. Because I had started thinking, maybe it's a Mink, maybe it's whatever. To me, it's just, if it was out of the Scabbards, if it's Conjuro, then I was well, we knew the least about him, etc. Dude, even if you took, a good Agatha Christie book, if you read it chapter by chapter, like split up over weeks, and there's
Dude,
like an entire community trying to solve it,
You
then
would
like
solve
yeah,
it.
it's going to be solved.
And like
So that is
even
very
even
fair.
if you and like even if as an author you make a really really good and clever twist, like I think the Conjuro twist was, just the fact that someone had brought up his name before made it go like, oh, I've heard that before, so it's automatically not as breathtaking, you know? Like it even if someone had said, oh, it must be Conjuro because his hair is red, but like nobody else's hair is red, I'd be like, this is a stupid theory, but I've heard it before. So when it's actually Conjuro, I'm like, oh, I've heard this before. I'm not as
100%.
surprised.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I was trying to stay away from like watching any of these. Like, I didn't watch Marco's video. I didn't watch any of these theory videos and stuff because I just didn't want those ideas in my head. Kind of. The one thing I will say, this goes back to how I felt like Oda could have made this maybe the best twist in One Piece would have been if he just played down a little bit the idea that there's a traitor. If he had just dropped the hint twice. Like, maybe once, like, Inuarashi saying something like, how did they find Zo? Something like that. And then maybe one other time. But the fact that it was confirmed by Orochi, like, I have an insight. Because this goes back to the Water 7 twist. I think this would have blown the Water 7 twist out of the park if it had happened the same way, where it felt like in Water 7 there's some suspicious stuff, but it was never outright said that there's, like, an inside man in Iceberg, right? So it wasn't like an active mystery we were trying to solve. If there was an active mystery we were trying to solve, we would have all figured out, okay, it's got to be one of the Galila. Lucci's name would have come up, Kaku's name, like, stuff like that. Like, it was never, there wasn't a built-in mystery around it, right? So it was the same concept of, like, a traitor on the inside, but Oda didn't tell us beforehand that there's a traitor on the inside. That's what made it a good twist. So to me, if he had done something, like, yeah, basically that's what I'm saying. If he'd softly hinted that there's a traitor, and then done this reveal here, and then kind of, like, basically, like, at that moment, if characters are like, holy shit, there was a traitor, and then thinking back, people being like, that's why Orochi knew this, that's why this, that's why this, I think that would have been the best twist Oda's ever done. Whereas when you do it as a mystery, it can't be a twist. It's just who was the, like,
The guy.
who was the guy.
Well, I might have a bit of a confirmation bias right now here, because I do want to drive home the point I just made. But I once again would bring the argument, and you're free to correct me if you think differently. I once again bring the argument that I only believe the thought that there was a traitor was as prominent in the community because there were people, like, someone brought it up, like how it's suspicious, and then people just kept talking about it and kept making theories on it, and it came up in streams and discussions. I just wonder.
You're right. No,
if-
you're right. You're right.
If no one, like, I wonder if I just read One Piece without, like, you know, someone catching up to One Piece right now, to this chapter, they're just in the process of catching up and reading this. I wonder if they thought there was a traitor until, like, 1 or 2 chapters ago, where Inuarashi or Nekomamushi literally mentioned, like, how did they know about this. I personally would say, if I'm not someone, as a first-time reader, who is not over-analyzing every story I read, I would definitely not have seen that there's a traitor until it's revealed.
I agree with you. I'll say this, it's somewhere slightly in the middle because Oda did. So I would have to go back and count up how many times Oda dropped that there's a traitor hint, right? Like, because you have Kaido literally telling them, like, when they show up, like, haha, maybe you have somebody in your castle.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's the chapter I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, you know, I think right before Act 3 ended, Orochi was saying, like, you know, I have inside information and stuff like that. So, like, I don't know, like, what the like, maybe Oda only dropped the hint 3 times, but because there's a community, it's like, that gets blown out of proportion or something. But then again, like, I do feel like, what do you say? Here's what I remember. After the Inuarashi commenting on Zo or whatever, like, how did they find us? There were theories and stuff about who the traitor is, but when Oda, like, they were like, somebody must have led him there and stuff like that. I think, when Oda sets up lots and lots of question marks running at the same time, then it's easy for certain things to get lost in the mix, basically. So, for example, the theory about who the Witching Hour boy is, I remember Ushimi, like, the Witching Hour boy, that was like a question that lots of people would forget. Like it wasn't a commonly reoccurring topic because there was so much other stuff going on. You know what I mean? And that's when Oda's doing a good job of like lots and lots of stuff to make you forget about this hanging plot thread or that hanging plot thread. With the traitor, I do feel like that ended up coming more to the... Because like back when Inuarashi said it, I remember there weren't that many going theories about who the traitor was. But once we hit Wano and it was mentioned maybe some things happened and stuff, then it started coming more and more to the community forefront or whatever. So Oda obviously can't control that. I think if you're reading One Piece on your own, you would at some point like be remembering, okay, there's a traitor because like, you know, Orochi's saying it, Kaido's saying it, stuff like that. So I don't know what the ideal number would have been for Oda to like cut back on hints, to like keep it in the back of our minds and not like the forefront of our thoughts and stuff like that. So like, I don't know if he... Like, yeah, you're right. And you can't just drop, oh, there was a traitor all along out of nowhere, because that's just too big of a twist, basically. Like, so it was a fine line he played. And again, I think the chapter was really good. I guess just the answer to who it wasn't my favorite. Or like, I was hoping there'd be, I don't know, like one of the scabbards we thought we knew more about. Yeah, basically. And then like, I wonder if I would have been more satisfied with it as a twist if it had been a little less played up that there is a traitor. But again, I don't know how much Oda played that up and how much is us. So
no, I do agree with you. I feel like we're touching upon something here that is in general a bit of an issue with the weekly format and in general the long run of the story. Just you have two very different reading experiences for any long running story. You do have the people who do go through it in one swing, and who you can pass, like you can pass a lot of this small foreshadowing. Basically, you can get through with it without anyone ever noticing if I'm just casually reading through the chapters, chapter by chapter. And then there's the reading experience for people who do read weekly, who have a lot more time actually looking at each chapter, listening to other people's opinions, looking at details, remembering, like putting it into context, trying to predict what's going to happen next. And I just wonder in general. I do think that Oda keeps both types of readers in mind. And I think by focusing on each individual chapter in detail and trying to make each individual chapter great, that is what makes the overall story great. But it nonetheless is, I think, a very hard balance to find in general.
I totally agree. It like really affects your perception while you're like One Piece. I think we can all agree is best binge read, right? Like when you're reading it all in one, then like parts don't feel slow. You're getting this. I still remember in the community there's a huge divide, and you'll see like if you just talk to people or get like responses, there's a huge divide between people who love Dressrosa and people who aren't as fond of Dressrosa, and it's totally based on whether you got to read it all at once or week to week. Because week to week, Dressrosa it felt a little cluttered. It felt slow, very slow at points. It felt exhausting at points because it was very long and it all took place in one day, etc. But then, and I remember that was community perception at the time. But then as time went on and new people are catching up, I remember seeing like even in like random polls and stuff that you see on Reddit or Twitter and stuff, Dressrosa's percent, like how much people like Dressrosa, it's going up and it's going up and up and up. And like there's lots of people coming in who love Dressrosa because they got to read it all at once and stuff. So like One Piece really like, and it doesn't just apply to One Piece though, because for example, like, you know, Hunter x Hunter has an arc called the Chimera Ant arc. And I'm not going to spoil you anything about it, but like that was an arc that supposedly when it was coming out week to week was not liked so much. But nowadays it's considered like one of the best manga arcs ever. You know what I mean? So like certain things just need to be read all at once. Same with Steel Ball Run. Steel Ball Run, which I just read, is JoJo's Part 7. I loved Steel Ball Run. Supposedly when it was coming out week to week, people didn't think it was all that great or even one of the best JoJo's parts. So much changes and like you kind of need time. Honestly, the opinions of people who get to read it all in one go are what matter the most. We obviously don't get to have that perspective anymore, but like the reality is like how good Wano is it can only be fairly judged by future readers.
Yeah, someone
Readers
who
5 years down the
actually
line, to be honest.
goes through it in one
Yeah,
setting.
that's the sad thing. Like, that's rough, but that's the way it is. I will say at the same time, Oda's really good in this sense, in that like when One Piece is going off, it's the best manga to read week to week. Because I remember the best Marineford, for example, that final 10 chapter run of Marineford where it's Ace being freed, into Ace dying, into Whitebeard versus Akainu, into Blackbeard showing up, into Whitebeard dying, into Blackbeard getting his fruit, into Shanks showing up. That was all like mind-blowing, insanely good chapters back to back to back that like it felt like the reading experience week to week was awesome. And I would say that's like one of the few stretches where it's like better to be a weekly reader than even binging. Because binging it is obviously really cool, and I've seen people's reactions to binging it. But like getting like Ace dying 1 week, and then you get a week to like let that sink in, and then like Whitebeard dying like a little bit later, and you've got like a week of that to sink in, and then Blackbeard getting like, it's just each week is so exciting that it feels like it's like it feels so like that whole stretch feels so much more powerful.
But obviously you can't keep that up, because at some point like you will,
can't.
If you want to have great world building, you can't have the great action scene, the great reveal every chapter. And I feel like that's what some people are expect. Like, you always have the people who are expecting this, who are like, oh, Wano is boring because like, or this chapter was boring because there was no big reveal. This chapter in Whole Cake Island was boring. And I'm like, well, you do need some build up to have a payoff in the first place. If every chapter is just payoff, it's not payoff. It's just a mess.
Exactly. I mean, but then it's gonna depend a lot on like how Wano meets that payoff.
Oh,
you know
for
what I
sure.
mean? So like that's why it's hard for me to.
I mean, what I
Judge
reread
it,
of the arc so far, I really liked. I didn't feel it had any lengths at all that maybe some people were feeling while it was going on. And the same for also Dressrosa, but also Whole Cake Island. I remember reading the manga during Whole Cake Island, especially like the second half after the party. That I did enjoy it, and I really really like Whole Cake Island now as an arc. It's actually I do appreciate it more and more the more time passes and the more often I revisit it. But at the time it was coming out, I thought it definitely had its length. Just like this, like, oh, it's still Big Mom pursuing the crew, and they're still sailing, and it's still Big Mom, and they're still sailing and still sailing. But if you actually get to read it in one go, it's actually like the entire arc is really nice. And like the problem was that also with the week to week thing, you kind of lose focus of what the arc is all about with like these sequences that drag on. I feel like reading Whole Cake Island in one go, you can tell how much, in fact, the arc is about Sanji and what a central role he plays in that arc. But it gets lost if you get one Big Mom chasing the Straw Hat Pirates week after week after week and nothing's happening. So I do get that. I feel like a fair comparison might be going back to one of my favorite stories, Lord of the Rings. If you've ever read the books and not just seen the movies, the books can be really lengthy at points. And I just imagine people only being able to read a chapter of Lord of the Rings a week or every 2 weeks. And I'm like, you would say this is the fucking worst story ever. Like, we're literally having pages of like guys chilling in gardens at the beginning and like nothing happening, and they're feasting, and it's like small little guys, nothing's going on. So great stories, I feel, that have enormous world building will have these parts that, taken individually, will maybe seem a bit dull and out of place, but putting it into the greater context and reading it in bulk will just reveal how good it is, in my opinion.
Yes, definitely agree with that. I think that's a good point to move to chapter 975, and I don't think there's that much to talk about this chapter, honestly, so let's cover it in 10-15 minutes. I don't know.
Let's try it.
We have
what
no
do you
questions
think?
today.
Well, what do you think about let's maybe start with the end, because I feel like that's the most obvious thing to talk about. What do you think about Law, Kid, and Luffy?
That is the main part to talk about, right? I mean, no. Okay, wait. One second recap. I actually haven't gotten to read the official of this just yet. I didn't get time today. I'll read it soon. But I assume nothing has changed that much between the official and the fan translations. So Denjiro shows up with everybody, right? Denjiro shows up with everybody. Luffy, Kid, Law, action, and then the Kinemon stuff at the end, right? Those are the three big points of the chapter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, Denjiro is like the second big thing, exactly.
So Luffy, Kid, Law. What do I think? I wanted more. So I guess that's my. By the way, I don't like Law.
I'm just cutting this part out of the podcast and making this like a reaction gif for Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Just like it's like I want more. I wanted more. Just gonna put this on there.
Dude, but I'm serious. Like, well, no. To be fair, this is just the teaser, right? This is the teaser because,
for sure.
This is just like a tease of what's to come. Right, like we're gonna get much because like if you go back and compare to like the Sabaody chapter where they actually like teamed up and stuff for the first time, this was kind of like I don't know if you could hear my snaps through the mic or whatever. Yeah, but
just a recap.
Yeah, this was just like quick, right? Like Luffy, Law, and Kid are all together. They're gonna do what you expect, which is all jump on board, wreck a ship basically. Like comparing that to like the Sabaody chapter where Oda did like really. Felt like there was a little more weight behind, man, each of these three guys stepping up, stuff like that. Like, I preferred that chapter to this chapter, of course. I will say that I understand that this is obviously not the main event. The main event would be Kaido, right?
So,
like, totally different.
More of a callback, right? To the
this was a callback. Chapter. This was purely a callback. It's cool to see. When I say I wanted more, it's even something small like, can I see Kid's transformation? I know that, like,
but I think that's on purpose, no?
Huh?
That's on purpose, isn't it?
That's obviously on purpose. So I'm just saying what I wanted. I wanted more. So,
I wanted more.
Yeah, I wanted more. What's really coolest thing by far to me was Luffy's already in Boundman, which means that he's treating it more casually.
Yeah.
There's the flip side argument, which is like, Luffy might just show off more for these guys because I remember Luffy. Even if you go back to Sabaody. Luffy went Gear 3rd, which at the time is a big deal. Luffy wasn't regularly busting out Gear. Like, it was... Luffy wasn't... Normally, he wouldn't bust out Gear 3rd for fodder like that. Like, even at Sabaody, right? Because he still had the drawback of, he turns tiny and stuff like that. And I remember he turned tiny in that scene. So, it's hard to say whether for sure... Like, my interpretation at the moment, gut reaction is like, oh, he's using Boundman just like this. That means that he can use it more freely. There is the small argument, which is like, well, Luffy might be for display for these guys, basically, because that is what he did the first time that he competed with them a little bit. I also don't like, I get that Law's part of this trio, but to me, it just doesn't fit.
Yeah, well, he has a very... Kid and Luffy are a lot more similar in many ways than...
Yeah, Law just feels like the odd man. It feels to me like it's just for the sake of the callback, the Luffy, Kid, Law dynamic. But, like, the reality is Law and Luffy never had this dynamic. Like, they've been together for so long. Law is not that type of character. He's not a conqueror. He's not like these guys.
Though, to be fair, as a supernova, I guess originally, at least, Law still had that ambition. And
yeah. I mean, he's not even, like, gunning for One Piece as far as we know, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not sure that... I don't think that was ever mentioned, was it?
He mentioned... Okay, Law has mentioned once, which was basically it was right before the time skip. Law and his crew are kind of chilling. This is after all of the Luffy Ace Soppa flashback and stuff. It's kind of just catching up where all the supernovas are at. And, like, I remember Law's crew is saying to him, like, Captain, shouldn't we get going to the New World? He's like, just chill out. The One Piece isn't going anywhere. That's the one time in the series that he's expressed anything about One Piece. But everything we've learned about his character since, like, his goal in life was to take down Doflamingo. He wanted revenge for Corazon. That was his reason for existence. We don't even know that much of his personal motivation to take down Kaido. Like, as far as I understood before this, it was... Like, this was a way to get Luffy... he wanted Kaido to destroy Doflamingo. He didn't care about his life compared to, like, anything else that was in the... He just wanted Doflamingo to go down.
But I guess there has to be more to his ambition, because if that had been... Like, I think it was definitely part of it and a big part of his life. But I do believe that if Law's only ambition had been, okay, get Luffy to help with Dressrosa so Kaido comes and take out Doflamingo, like then he would just have dropped. So either Law is just there to take down Kaido out of pure gratitude, but I personally would actually prefer it if Law was someone who was actually actively aiming for the One Piece and is like, okay, we are this alliance and we became friends along the way, but we're nonetheless, after Wano's over, we're going to be once again competing Supernova for the title of Pirate King.
And that's the thing. I don't know if Law has that.
Yeah.
Ever since Doflamingo, that was the end of his, like how much Oda wanted to tell us about what Law wants, basically. And you know what? Actually, Brago Diaz mentioned this, maybe even in the last Reverie, which is a good point, which is like, Law had a conversation with Sengoku at the end of Dressrosa, and it was along the lines of the Will of D or something like, or maybe it wasn't that conversation. But Brago had mentioned basically that Law is still interested somewhat in what the Will of D means. So that's like the one hanging motivation that we know Law still has. But besides that, ever since Dressrosa closed, we don't know. We know what he's choosing to do, which is like choosing to go through with this plan with Kaido and stuff, but we don't know inside his head what is his motivations for doing this at this point. Is it, out of gratitude for Luffy? Is it, I still want to become Pirate King and stuff like that? Because these things are like, so to me, Law still, there's question marks around his character, basically, that I assume are going to be answered by the end of this arc. So he's an interesting character right now. To me, it just doesn't fit him being in that scene. Like, if you didn't have that pre-time skip scene with the three of them before, then this scene would make no sense.
Yeah, definitely.
But because we had that, and it's the callback to that scene, it's got to happen.
Yeah. And I do believe that Oda tries to, like, at one point, he tries to draw attention back to Sabaody and, like, put maybe I'm interpreting more into this than is fair, but I personally, for me at least, it put Wano back into the context of the One Piece world, which was nice. And the second thing was, it kind of felt to me as if he wanted to say, okay, even though I didn't explain how Kid came to join these two, like by showing the same dynamic they had at Sabaody, we kind of know where we're starting off without even knowing how it happened, but we do know where we are kind of with this dynamic because it's the same. And I kind of took it as, okay, obviously I'm not going to reveal like how strong is Kid in this context, so you'll get more of this later, but you kind of know at least the dynamic they have between each other.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, like it's like a reorienting moment. Like, okay, the story's going to kick off with this dynamic.
Yeah, it's kind of like, this is just like what you said. Like it's you wanted more, but you know it's exactly how Sabaody, so you kind of have a starting point where to like basically kick this off.
Yeah, that's no knock on the chapter. I'm just saying literally like I wanted to see more from whatever this was.
This is new podcast name after Wano. It's the I Wanted More podcast.
Okay, besides that, let me think. So
Denjiro? Thoughts
Denjiro,
on that?
I guess I was surprised that we got the flip back of Denjiro so quickly. Like, but it makes sense, like, because this is the moment that like he's coming in with the cavalry and everything like that. Yeah, it makes sense. Like, this is the final battle. I was just surprised it was so quick. Like in terms, like I thought we would get it at a different point.
I mean, one point I was trying to make during my review was that I feel while it might feel fast, all these reveals coming up at once, I do feel it's a nice thing that Oda is trying to get a lot of the open ends and open threads he still has lying around Wano, at least some of them, tied up before we move to Onigashima, because that tells me, okay, we will be able to focus on some battle and some action without having to worry who's the traitor, where's or who's Kyoshiro, where's, stuff like that.
That's a good point. I agree. Like, I was just surprised it happened now, but I don't
same.
I think it's a fitting.
I do agree with that. Same.
So, him coming, all the reinforcements coming, etc., etc. I mean, like, nothing much else to say besides like, looks like we're ready for the big fight to happen. Like, everything's in place and everything like that. I do think. I mean, I'll say it over and over. I still don't think this is the final battle, kind of specifically because it feels like their problems got resolved. Like, to me, it's like their problems did get resolved fairly easily and quickly. Like, they get to the shore, things seem kind of bad for a moment, quick flashback, and then back to everything being good again. So I do think that this is kind of like the false sense of like, we're gonna pull this off right now, personally. And one more thing to add to that, I think part of it is the fact that it happened through a gag, which was Kinemon's gag, which I really liked.
Same.
But I think part of it being the fact that like it's through a gag, suppose like the whole conflict of this story, like this Act 3 so far, basically being resolved through a gag. I do wonder if like this is the like final battle or whatever.
Oh, right.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I was actually really happy that so many people were on board with the Kinemon gag, because I was kind of afraid that most people would be like, "Oh, this sucks."
Oh, you
like,
froze.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Bad storytelling.
Oh, dude, it's One Piece. I think most people would like it's the series has conditioned us to be okay with that.
But it was really nice, and I feel like it was a real One Piece moment in a way, And there were the people who were complaining about it, but I thought it was just really like it was a comedic element in an otherwise very dark streak of chapters so far. And
yes. We're coming out of it.
Yeah, and I do like that the comedy kind of comes back with Luffy coming back into this story, if that makes sense.
Dude, Luffy has funny comments. That's obvious or whatever, but like he has funny comments throughout the
like he was chapter. Like, "Oh, I kind of have no idea what's going on, but let's do this."
Yeah. Yeah, Luffy will never not be funny.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Like, I don't know. With Kinemon, basically, the one thing I'll say is that it just depends. I like the gag, right? My question is basically before it was revealed to have been a gag, and it was like Kinemon was a genius in everybody's eyes for a moment. My like for Kinemon's character, and I've liked Kinemon's character for a while now, actually. I don't even know when it happened. There was no particular moment. I remember I didn't like him back in Punk Hazard or Dressrosa. At some point, maybe over the course of Wano, I just started to like him a lot. But my respect for his character, like, spiked. And I was like, this is a really great moment for Kinemon's character. And then it was revealed to be a gag. And then I really liked the gag. The question then basically becomes, was it worth sacrificing what it could have meant for his character? So to me, it doesn't matter that it's not like Kinemon's like, it doesn't change. Like it's my opinion of Kinemon is basically what it was before, and I still liked him before. So it's not like it ruins his character in any sense. And he was always like a bit of a derpy character in a sense. Sure. Like if you go back to Punkhead, like he's smart, but he's not. I don't think he was ever portrayed as a master tactician. Yeah, he's smart, but he's not. He's like a good leader, but he's not like a genius by any means or whatever.
I mean, I personally like to believe that we're still in the middle of Kinemon's character arc.
Oh, okay.
Sure. One thing. Shit, now I just remembered it because there was something I wanted to talk to you about.
Well, let's make it the last topic.
Yes, but I forgot it right when I wanted to ask about it. Does it ever happen to you?
Was it chapter related?
Yeah, it was definitely chapter related. But
was it Kinemon related? Scabbard related?
Yeah, I think it was something with Kanjuro, but I did forget what it was.
Kanjuro versus the Scabbards, potentially? I mean, I think they just found their...
Oh, yes. That was perfect. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay.
That triggered it. So what I personally think... that was so stupid. I was thinking of it, and then it was gone. What I was thinking is that Kanjuro basically having traveled with the crew for such a long time, and like the entire premise that he literally felt all these emotions with Luffy and the others. I personally would like, even though this wasn't really hinted at in any way, but I personally would think it would make nice storytelling in general for the entire Wano arc to, at the end of the arc, show that the crew was successful, and especially that Kinemon was successful, by actually bringing this character that might have been one of the characters in one of the darkest places in the entire story, bring that character to light. And actually, give him that personality that he just played, had an act of. Basically,
You think Kanjuro good guy? Kanjuro good guy shit?
Yeah, in the end, Kanjuro good guy. I know a lot of people want Kanjuro dead. I personally think making forging peace between a Kurozumi and because Orochi. I mean, I think we can agree that Orochi has to die or at least like suffer.
Orochi's got to get some.
Gotta get some shit. Like, I don't want to see an Orochi turning good moment, but I do want to see a Kurozumi turning good moment, like peace between Kurozumi and Kozuki. And I feel like with Kanshiro, we do have the opportunity for that. What do you think?
Oh, dude, that would actually be really cool. Like, I think having a character like that, you know, would be like it would be One Piece-esque. And like especially if Oda does it well, which like I think we could expect him to do. That actually would make Kanjiro's character like, you know, 10 times more exciting even than like it already just became in my mind. Because like he did just become a really cool character concept.
And I do
yeah.
Sorry. To finish.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and I do believe like I would also like it if all the kindness Kanjiro has gotten from the Kozuki and Oden throughout his life, if that at some point does punch through, because I do feel that would be really in line with the story and the kind of morale that Oda is trying to tell in his stories, you know? Like, basically Kanjiro, in the end, remembering all the kindness and then saving a Kinemon or, I don't know, whoever, one of the other scabbards from death by actually remembering all the kindness in the end, you know?
I would very much prefer that, I think, than, like, even him. Not that it would be bad if he just remains a villain. Like, I think he's an exciting villain prospect or whatever. But, like, that would be really, really cool storytelling if Oda decided to go that route.
Because it would add, like, a level of complexity to his like another level of like we basically go from this character who has like no characterization at all apart from being goofy to the hidden spy and actually the smart villain who actually has no personality and is just like oozing, like basically lost in darkness as much as I think no other character in the story before.
Yeah, like in that sense.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
And then to this blob of darkness, this nothingness based on all that he's suffered through. Based on that, adding another layer and saying, oh, despite all that and despite him saying it was all just an act and like he doesn't have a personality itself, like despite all that, the kindness he was shown still made it through to him. Like I feel like that would be a really nice message to
dude, Kanjiro for Nakama. You think he could become if he became the next Straw Hat? That'd be so cool. I mean, that'd be really, really cool. I don't know. There's no way to know right now. I think the simplest line of thought we have for him right now.
Now that we know that his devil that like he's actually pretty badass with his devil fruit, I would not mind in the least. Like,
dude, imagine if you had told like somebody like 6 months ago, like, hey, what if Kanjiro became the next Straw Hat? People like,
fuck off.
Nobody. Obviously, that's not even that's like a 1% chance right now, but that's
that would be nice. It would kind of be like a Robin moment, but turned up by 10. Like
it would have to be turned up. Yeah.
I mean, like
Robin was
obviously
never
Robin's
that
reveal
bad.
will most likely stay the. Like in general, her character arc was so strong. It will be really hard to top that ever. But what I mean,
I think that's one of the.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. But what I meant is like. Just the concept of like the bad guy becoming a Straw Hat, like that would be the same concept but like tuned up by 10 kind of.
The difference in my mind would be that Kanjiro actually is
bad
at this moment a bad guy, and that's never happened for any of the Straw Hats. Like they've never actually been. It's just been what people perceive them as, right? Like we always get their backstory to understand.
With Frankie,
but Kanjiro, at least at this moment, we know that he's done terrible, terrible things. Robin, we understand that she probably has done some bad things. But she didn't actually kill, like, Igurum. She didn't actually, like, as far as we have seen, she, like, and when she says her special ability is, like, every time that she hinted that she was a bad person or whatever, we could always kind of tell that, like, maybe she didn't actually do a lot of the bad things or whatever. Whereas with Kanjiro, we know that he's been feeding information. We know that he's responsible for, like, a lot of aspects of the bad things. So for somebody who's actually bad to turn, that would be, really good.
But then in the end, like, he's, like... I guess you could still argue, like I do agree with you that he's in a really, like he's a real bad character, but like, you know, compared to Orochi, I
know what you mean, like malintent versus like, I know what you mean. Like Kanjiro's just like an empty shell who is willing to do this, basically, devote his life to this because he's just.
As he said, he never had the intention or the desire to hurt the like Oden or the others, which makes it like. It's such a smart thing because it makes so much sense, but at the same time, it doesn't make sense at all. Because why, like, how can you feel And I feel that's what makes his character interesting. How can you feel love and sympathy and friendship and kinship with those around you, but at the same time work like put that on your revenge menu, kind of, if that makes sense.
Dude,
Like,
I don't know. It's just I'm very excited to see more of. Like, he just rocketed up in my mind. Like, in terms of characters, I want to see more of going forward. By the way, I'll say this real quick to at least close my bit on this. I guess, like, now that I'm thinking through it overall, I still have this one issue that I'll hold on to, which is that I felt like we didn't get to see the Scabbards bonding to Odin early on. Like, what made that happen? But obviously that's been mostly waved over in my mind by the fact that, like, what we saw Odin did for them in his death, right? Like, we can understand why they're so driven to love Odin. I would have still liked them to have seen some storylines bonding them tighter to him early on or whatever, especially with Ashura, stuff like that. But that being said, now that I sit back and think about it, one of the issues that a lot of people had early on was like, well, it still feels like the Scabbards, we're not as connected or whatever, or something like that. But at this moment, if I run through everything we've learned over the past whatever, I'd say that Oda's done a really good job for most. So, like, if we just run through, for example, the Scabbards at this point, Kinemon, I think if you don't like Kinemon at this point, I don't know how much more. Like, it's not like he never had, like, some amazing moment or special moment or anything like that. I don't even know what point it was that I started liking Kinemon more.
it's just the consistency of characterization he got.
Yeah. Consistency of characterization, him being a generally likable character who's keeping the story moving, etc., etc. We see. So Kinemon, I'm checking him off the list. I like him as a character. Inuarashi Nekomamushi, I've liked them since Zou. I think, Raizo Dono was safe, cemented them as forever. Like, I don't think they need that much. Like, if you don't like them already, I don't know what to say. Inuarashi Nekomamushi off that. Ashura Doji, he was a character that I liked. I think Oda did a really good. Like, he was the most interesting Scabbard for a bit because he was the most anti-hero, not stepping in line with the rest of them, etc., etc. He had more inner conflict, it looked like, with the whole campaign. So I feel like Oda's done his work with him to make him an interesting character. I still felt like we could have gotten more out of him at the end of the day. But Ashura Doji I do like as a character a lot. Kyoshiro Denjiro, super interesting. After that closing to Odin's backstory, and the role that he took on and everything like that, Kyoshiro has been an interesting character, right? So Kyoshiro I view as Denjiro I view as an interesting Scabbard at this point. And now Kanjuro, Kanjuro, who was maybe one of the most dull Scabbards, is now just turned into maybe the most interesting of the bunch. And then, Kawamatsu, he got the Yukimaru chapter. I'd say Raizo and Kiku are maybe the lowest of the bunch, but basically, long recap, but I do think that if you look back at individual by individual, I found all the Scabbards interesting and likable characters for the most part. I'd say Raizo and Kiku are the two that are maybe not could have had more. But that's about it.
Yeah, Kiko is pretty much the only one I'm still waiting for more, because Raizo I feel is just what he is, but he's gotten his characterization, I feel. With Kiko I still feel, we've seen her with that mask, but we never really saw what she did with it.
Dude, Kiku actually needs the most, because Kiku's got the weirdest quirk, which is that she, she's the, not to go after, identifying with X gender or Y gender or whatever. Okay, I'm not going after that. I'm just saying, if you do want to learn a little more about, nothing in the backstories or anything like that seemed to suggest why, maybe I'm treading into dangerous territory here.
You are treading into very dangerous territory right now.
Yeah, I don't.
But keep going.
Do you guys know what I mean? At least to me, it's interesting that Kiku she has a male persona, it seems and a female persona, and she seems like she swaps between two different personas depending on if she puts the mask on or not. To me, that's interesting, and I'm curious as to whether Oda will delve into that a little bit, because with Raizo, there's not much more to learn, like you said. Right. I feel.
Well, in general, regardless of that, I just want to see more of Kiku in general, because I do feel that her character has crazy potential, and I just really like her design, with that mask and the long sword with the Oni mask. I feel that just looks like someone
really cool design.
Yeah, it just looks like someone who should be strong. So
coolest design of the scabbards when she's got it on.
yeah.
Well, Kanjuro is really cool.
Oh,
dude, I view Kanjuro as so cool now. Like, it's just
Yeah.
such a cool character.
Yeah.
Like, he's like the Joker now,
right?
basically.
Yes.
Like, before he
yes.
was like goofy, but
Ooh.
now he's the Joker.
This
it's
is
just,
such a
it's
mind
really cool.
blow. You're correct.
Yeah.
I've never thought of that, but you're 100% correct.
Dude, Oda gave him such a flexible. It's like how you view it. Either it's he's a
And
joke,
you
or now
and you literally
he's
just
the Joker.
gave me a title for the podcast. That is
Oh, cool.
perfect. I
All right.
can't believe I didn't think of this. That's awesome. Yeah. Last thing, I guess, before we slowly come to an end. Yeah, outfits. Obviously, just because we're talking about looks, the new outfits are badass. I think we can say.
Let me think. They're all looking pretty good. I think in general,
Except Zoro, who just looks the same as always.
yeah, Zoro looks the same. Yeah, pretty much. Luffy's got a cool look right
Dude,
now.
the
So does
cape.
Sanji, Nami, yeah. A lot of good looks going around,
for
basically.
sure. Frankie looks dope. I feel like.
Okay, I might be wrong because I have to take another look at the chapter. Did we get like a nice big double page spread or anything of them?
I don't
Or,
think
like,
so.
was it a
It was
quick
like
look?
seeing individual panels so far.
Okay, I need to see them more close or like in a bigger visual to like for the outfit new designs to like kind of sink in. I think.
Right. I do agree. Right. I guess this is a good spot to wrap this up. We're roughly at an hour. So I think that was a lot of fun talking. We had a good time.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks so much for tuning in today as well. As always, if you're new to this podcast, we'd appreciate it if you subscribe to both of our channels. Links in the description below. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. If you want to support the podcast, make sure to give this a like here. Maybe share your thoughts on what we talked about in the comments below, or leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this. Finally, I guess, yeah, you can't talk about anything today without talking about the virus. So make sure to stay safe. We hope we can brighten up your day a bit also with this podcast. It's definitely, for both of us, enjoyable to share our thoughts with you guys. Thanks so much for staying with us. We both really appreciate the way this community has grown. And also, we both appreciate how 99.9% positive and constructive this community is. So thanks, guys, for being with us. Yeah, I just had to think back of that one comment we were talking about earlier, but okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for this, and stay safe out there. Make sure to not panic, but also take this seriously at the same time. I wish you all the best. And any last words, Morj?
No. Sounds good.
Perfect. Then we talk to you guys probably next week. Bye.